Hello and welcome to the Speed League podcast from Southern California. I'm Kelly Hansen. We're talking about the Philadelphia Supercross today, our fantasy matchups. Fantasy's really coming down to the wire. We're almost to the championship. If you aren't already playing, it's speedleaguefantasy.com. Outdoor motocross fantasy is just about to start. When that season fires up at the end of May, I believe you can sign up for your leagues there now. But I'm here as always with the man, the myth, and the legend, Ryan Berkman. What's up?
How's it going, Kelly? Yeah, and you mentioned the championship season is coming up, and unfortunately, I'm in two leagues, and both leagues I am mathematically eliminated from the championship. I think that this is the first time that that's ever happened, so I'm kind of down in the dumps. Hopefully, you could pull me out of there because your buddy's a little bummed out right now.
Really? This is the first time? It seems like you suck at fantasy always. This kind of surprises me.
Right. Yeah, right. It's bullshit. Freaking
You
I
you did
needed a
kick my
win.
ass in MotoGP fantasy today.
true.
For anyone who cares about that, we're Speed League is also doing MotoGP and F1 fantasy, and Ryan trounced me. So I'll give you that one. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Supercross. And the Supercross race, Jet is so good.
He is, and really this week was the first week that I kind of came to terms with Jet should win the championship, and I want him to win the championship because before I was, oh yeah, Webb's hanging right there and Webb's super consistent, but it's got to the point where I want the best in the world to win. I think that Jet deserves it. And quite honestly, after seeing this last race, Webb doesn't deserve to win this championship. It is Jet's to win. And I hope that no catastrophic, thing happens to make him lose it because he wholeheartedly deserves it at this point.
I mean, I want to see some chaos personally. I think he is going to win, and I think he's doing everything he needs to win. But I mean, I want to see a fight, and especially this race. As soon as he gets the whole shot, I mean, we talked about so many times, Jet with a whole shot is almost a guaranteed win. But I mean, this race, he whole shot with Tomac, Webb, Anderson, Sexton right on him. I mean, everyone who should be a contender was right behind him right off the start. And I'm just sitting there going, come on, let's make something happen here. But dude, he's so good. He's so effortless.
He is. And really, I mean, it's off the start, Jet with a whole shot. I mean, you want to see those guys contend, but they can't and they won't. I mean, it seems like no matter what you wish for, oh man, Tomac's fast, Sexton's fast. They are nowhere near what Jet is this year and next year and the years to come. So I do want to see some chaos, but at this point, I find it hard to even see when we're going to have chaos because he's just that much faster than all of them. I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you've got Jet on your team, if you don't have him predicted first, you're screwing up because he's definitely a first prediction. If something happens to him and, bad start, crash, whatever it is, he's going to finish further back, but you're not predicting him fourth, fifth, anything like that. You're predicting him first place.
Yeah, exactly. And I have him on one of my leagues, and I've been going 1-1-1 for the past few weeks now, and it has panned out. So yeah, he definitely deserved that last year, that first place prediction and rookie season, moving up to the 450s. He deserves a first overall prediction, which is very rare for that to happen.
Yeah. So, and yeah, Webb now 12 points down with 2 races to go. He bled out another few points at the end there. I mean, dropping off the podium by letting Anderson get by him at the very last corner. That hurts.
This was a pivotal race for Webb. I mean, he needed to give this everything that he has, everything the bike has to give. And it was actually a really big disappointment for me to see, Tomac and Sexton and everything just pull away, and then him just, last turn let Anderson pass him, and he just should have been giving it more. And I'm sure that obviously he was giving it like 100% everything that he had, but I just expected more from Webb with so much on the line this week.
Yeah, so I mean, he did beat Tomac, but yeah, Sexton with actually a really, really good ride from Sexton because Sexton started behind everybody, got Anderson first, and then came around Tomac, Webb, ended up in second place. That was like a really strong ride from Sexton, which I'm glad to see. I've got him on my fantasy team. But yeah, Anderson kind of out of nowhere, you don't really expect. He's started off really strong this season and kind of slept a little bit through the middle of the season. But now, I mean, getting past Tomac and then Webb right at the end there, he was definitely, I mean, the pass right at the end was because he was blitzing the whoops and Cooper Webb was jumping the whoops. Those were actually really, it was a good track, I think, this week, a little bit difficult to pass, but they had blitzable whoops and there were some people that were jumping through them, some people that were blitzing, but blitzing was faster. And that was one of Webb's downfalls here, and it cost him the podium.
One of the like worst style Supercross tracks that's like super boring to watch is the ones that just one line, one line through the turn, one line through the whoops. And like this one, like you said, had different style of like whoops they were doing, and that like sand section. People were taking some wild lines through that sand section, and it was like super cool to see people going from the inside to
Yeah.
outside or just outside all the way through, or freaking Jalik Swoll taking his own type of line into Hammaker. But
Yeah, there was some wild converging lines happening in that sand section. That was the crisscross crash section.
That's right.
There. I mean, yeah, the Swoll and Hammaker incident, like I almost saw that happen another couple times. But yeah, that section was good. Even the rhythm section, it was one of those really long and curving rhythm sections, which sometimes are bad. Sometimes it kind of makes it one lined, but it was a passable rhythm section too. And there were people taking all kinds of different lines. I was watching when Sexton was tracking down Webb, which he was behind him for quite a while. They were taking different lines through that rhythm section the entire main event.
Yeah, and it's like kind of unique to see, like these guys have, so many laps on the track at this point, and they're still taking different lines and still feel like their way is the fastest, even though, I mean, obviously one has to be faster. But yeah, it was a super cool track. I thought that it was one of those like definite unique ones.
Yeah, and in Philly too, isn't that they were at the stadium where the Eagles play, right? That's what it
Yeah.
looked like to me. It looked like a big football stadium. That's rad, and it gives like the track builders a lot of options to work with when they have that much space. So that's super cool. Um, but yeah, so I mean, all the remaining contenders finishing up front. Obviously, we lost Roxon for the rest of the season. I don't think we actually knew that on our last podcast, but a huge bummer on that epic shock explosion issue for Roxon that he's going to be out for the Supercross season. Plessinger, obviously we lost a few races ago, so we really have a clean cut like top 5 now, and everyone should be adjusting their predictions for your lower down 450 guys to accommodate for this, because you've got two people that are generally always going to be in the top 10 in 450s that now aren't racing. So, you bump up your Shane McElrath and your, maybe some other people 1 or 2 places now.
Yeah, exactly. And I did do that this week, knowing that those 2 top guys were out. I tried to bump up some of my like predictions, but it still bit me in the ass. My team, no matter what I do, can barely score any prediction points. But yeah, I mean, it like, is definitely knowing those guys are going to be out. You got to predict accordingly. It's a skill.
Yeah. I barely squeezed one out against Holeshot King in sort of our championship preview. Me and Holeshot King are locked in for the championship at this point, so the games kind of don't matter. But we went head to head, and I beat him 132 to 129, 3 points. With a 1 prediction point bump there. So yeah, 2 dead on predictions, which I made. That makes a big difference, but some pretty decent finishes for my team. I mean, Sexton Barsha, who's been actually doing really well. I'll actually bring up because I mean, he finished sixth in this race. You know, sort of the best of the rest behind the top five. Barsha's my deeper pick for next week. You know, he's 10th in Speed League points right now, but he's really been making a comeback. I've had him predicted in like eighth, ninth for the last while, but his last four races, two sixth and a fifth with an 11th in Foxborough, sort of a bad finish. So I'm actually bumping up his prediction to sixth place. I recommend people don't sleep on Barsha. Again, one of those people who's benefiting from some of the higher up riders doing worse or you know not being out for the rest of the season, the Roxons and Plessingers, but also kind of you know delivering on being that best of the rest guy. I don't know. That's not who he wants to be. Barsha wants to be on the podium, but it's good for him right now.
Yeah, and like really, he was one of my biggest surprises of the whole start of the season was how bad he was actually doing. I mean, he's like one of those like freaking guys that you think is super consistent. Kelly like drafts him almost every single year, and like seeing him start the season and like be like way back there in the teens for a large portion of the season was just weird. And I don't know if it was bike issues or just like something with like conditioning, but I mean he has figured it out. And yeah, the last two races, a fifth and a sixth. Like with those guys out, he's going to be up there even more. Yeah, so I was really impressed with Barsha, and I think that that's a good, deeper pick. I like it, Kelly.
Yeah, dude, he and Hunter were having a good little battle in the 450 main too for sixth place, which he prevailed in. But yeah, they were like real on the same level and like ripping it up.
Speaking of Hunter, since we're here, Hunter is my deeper pick. He has
I
got.
bet I can guess where you're going to have him predicted.
He's got seventh 3 weeks in a row. Okay. And like 4 out of the last 5 weeks. So I mean, he is locked in around that like seventh spot. I mean, I know that some of those sevens were even with Plessinger and Roxon finishing ahead of him. So I think that he is almost on the move up. He had a great heat race. I thought he looked good in the heat. I mean, obviously he is the slower Lawrence brother. No one's going to argue that, but I mean, I think Hunter right there around the 6th or 7th spot. I mean, he's actually cemented himself in as a like for sure top 10 rider after some slip ups at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and looking at his recent results graph, which if you're using Speed League Fantasy, you can click on any rider and it'll pop open a little pop up, and you can see a graph of their last 5 results. It's one of those almost flat ones. He's got the 3rd place in St. Louis there that's actually screwing it up, but everything else is a 7th there. And yeah, you kind of have to go with a 7th place prediction. But honestly, if I wasn't going to do that, I'd probably go 6th because he's doing great.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So yeah, and then looking at what else in the 450 class, I picked up Ferrandis, who just came back from illness. I had him predicted a little bit higher, I think 7th. Ended up coming back with a 9th, but a decent top 10 finish for Ferrandis. I would expect him to hopefully just improve on that as we close out the season. But yeah, Ferrandis was out for a while. He was dropped in our league, and I managed to grab him. If he's available in your league, definitely snatch him up. I mean, that should be a top 10 guy every single week that's going to be useful in the championship.
And another guy that like might have like slid underneath the radar is like Dean Wilson, because like he was out with a like injury for the past. It was like 5 or 6 weeks, and he came back. And his last 2 races, he finished like better than he had the entire start of the season. So I mean, I don't know like what that injury did to him, but like he's got 2 11ths in a row, and like with someone like Roxon, like Plessinger going down, I mean, like Dean Wilson would probably be one of the best you could do with the available people on the roster. I mean, pick up Dean Wilson, predict him 11th, maybe get like a dead on 5-point prediction point bonus, and someone finishing in that top 12. I mean, that's almost as like good as you could hope off of the, waiver at this point.
Yeah, listen, I mean, if you're playing speed league, everybody in the league gets to pick up 450 riders, and with 4 players in your league, that's 16 riders. So anybody in that top 16 is technically worth picking up, and Wilson should be there every week, especially with the field bleeding a little bit right now. But yeah, that's cool to see. He's wrapping up his Supercross career. He's got 2 more races in his entire career, so he's going to be going balls out.
For sure. Is there anyone else in the 450s you want to talk about before we move on to a little chaos that was going on in the 250s?
No, let's talk 250s. Max Anstey. This was the Max Anstey we wanted and expected to see the entire season. Tons of preseason hype. Obviously, he was finishing second place all year last year. And so you kind of expect that when the Lawrence brother moves up, Anstey's going to just inherit and be the first place guy. And it just hasn't panned out that way. But he made it happen and did what we expected to in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, this is his first win of the entire year. And like, you would have thought he would have had a couple of these by now. I mean, we had him as the number 2 ranked guy, behind Deegan, correct? If I remember correctly, Deegan was our number 1 overall pick. We didn't have the foresight to have Vial up there. But yeah, like, you expected so much more from Anstey. I'm sure that if you like drafted him too, you're like totally disappointed. But it seems like that bike issue that he had in like Birmingham really bummed him out and like slowed him down, because the race after that he got 13th, and just his whole season wasn't turning out what he wanted to. And then like out of nowhere, pretty much, I mean, boom, with a win in like Philadelphia. I mean, like his like second podium of the whole season. So it was cool to like see him up there, and I'm glad that he got a little screen time, podium time. But yeah, definitely like a disappointing season for Anstey though overall.
And I mean, if you drafted him, obviously not only expecting a lot more, but that is an incredibly difficult rider to predict and get prediction points for in your fantasy league. I mean, I'm looking at his recent results graph: 21, 13, 5, 7, 1. Where do you predict someone like that? I mean, legitimately, because I mean, next week we're going to West, so he won't be racing. But we have the East West Showdown the week after that. Where do you put Anstey? East West Showdown.
I mean, you know what? I mean, the last East West Showdown, he got 7th. So I mean, you just have to kind of think somewhere around there. So you don't have much, like data to like go off of. So you just gotta. I would probably honestly, I would go 7th or 8th. Really, I mean, I know that he like won, and like people might be thinking, riding that like wave. But I mean, 7th or 8th when like all the big dogs are there. I mean, that seems like where he should be in my book.
Yeah, I think that's probably good guidance, is just looking at Nashville, last showdown, 7th place. That seems sort of appropriate for where he's going to be. But look, good job, Anstey. He's always like a fun person to hear talk on the podium. He's so stoked. He's an older guy, been doing this for a long time now, and so excited, especially on, not a factory team, to be bringing home a win. So it's rad to see. That being said, I mean, as good as he did ride, he wasn't the fastest on the track. I mean, Vial and Deegan got bad starts, and they were closing as they passed their way through the field. They were definitely faster, just not enough to actually make the pass and the win happen.
Yeah, and really Hammaker was like faster too. I mean, all night he like won his heat, was like looking so good. And like what hurts even more is that this was his home race. He had all of his friends, all of his family, had his 99-year-old grandpa there, his first ever Supercross race, cheering him on. And like everything was just, working out for him to get a guaranteed podium. And he got absolutely blindsided, taken out by like Jalek Swoll in that sand section. I'm like, Jalek was fast all night too. I mean, he like won his heat also. But yeah, it's like that was just uncalled for, wrong. And it really hurt me knowing that his mom, dad, and family had to watch it go down like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hammaker did get, I mean, he started up front. He got the whole shot and got passed and pulled by Anstey. So, I mean, Anstey was running stronger than him, but Hammaker was running great. And that was, yeah, pretty wild from Jalek Swoll. And what's crazy to me is I saw an interview that, I mean, apparently after the race, Jalek Swoll came up to Hammaker and was like yelling at him like it was his fault, which makes absolutely no sense. I mean, it doesn't look like Hammaker would have seen him at all. You know, Hammaker was running that outside line, and Jalek tripled into the sand section straight into the outside where Hammaker already was. So that seems pretty wild to me. And yeah, it cost them both a bunch of places. You know, they were running 2-3. Obviously, with Vial and Deegan closing on them, I think Swoll was probably feeling some pressure and wanted to make a move, but that was not the move because they finished 7th and 8th.
Yeah, and I watched that replay from multiple different angles, trying to kind of, see why Jalek might have been pissed off, if maybe Hammaker did do something that like wasn't quite right, but I didn't see one thing that would merit Jalek being pissed off at Hammaker. So, I mean, I'm like curious to see what he has to say about that, or if he comes out on like social media with like an explanation or whatever. But to me, that was 100% Jalek. But who knows? Racing.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, I was kind of excited to see what was going to happen too, because I mean, right at the end, there was a train of 6 people. I mean, you had the fast guys, Vial and Deegan, coming from behind that were catching up to the podium with, Anstey, Hammaker, and Jalek up there. There was somebody else in there too. Who was it? Who actually finished up there? Oh, Daxton Bennick was actually up there with 4th place for Daxton Bennick. Good job. But yeah, all 6 of them were like less than 5 seconds between all of them with just a couple minutes left in that main. So it's shaping up to be kind of cool. And I would like to see Vial have to pick their way through there because he was coming through pretty fast. And, he and Deegan with bad starts, and Deegan basically just followed Vial through the entire main event to end up on the podium.
Daxton Bennick was my deeper pick of the week last week. I didn't actually think he was going to do as good as 4th, but I did see a like trend where he kind of has a shitty race, a better race, a shitty race, a better race. So he like stayed true to that trend and like got his second best finish of the entire season in 4th, which was actually like really, really cool to see Daxton up there.
Yeah, he definitely, you're right about that. His recent results graph looks like the Swiss Alps, just up, down, peaks and valleys. But some 7ths in there, a real bad one in Nashville, and then a real good one here, 4th place. It's his best finish since he was randomly on the podium in his first race. So yeah, I've got Bennick on my team. Another guy is really difficult to predict. I had him predicted 8th. With 1 race left in the season for the showdown. I mean, the last showdown did not go well for him. He's usually not a good starter. So I'm worried about him. I would probably predict him outside the top 10 for that showdown.
Yeah, I would agree on that for sure. I mean, like really, starts are so important, especially in the showdown. And yeah, I mean, getting 20th. I know that he obviously had an issue and like crashed in Nashville, but I mean, yeah, it doesn't really look like Bennick's going to get up there in the top 10 in the showdown, but who knows? Maybe he'll pull something crazy out of his ass.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, obviously there's only one East Coast 250 round left. Vial now has a nice lead on Deegan. I believe it's 15 points. Basically just gets to mail it in Salt Lake City. So, I mean, unless some really wild chaos happens, I mean, we're looking at the 250 East champion is not who we expected at all, but good on him, Tom Vial.
Yeah, and like really, like no one saw this coming. I mean, his first race of the season, Detroit, he got 18th, and like since that 18th finish, he didn't finish off the podium once. So I mean, that's just like really cool to like see a guy that like no one really saw, no one really thought that he could make that championship push to pretty much have it locked up going into the final race. But I'm like super stoked for Vial, and I wonder what this means for like next year. I mean, always looking forward to like next season. I know there's a lot of stuff that like goes down, but I mean, is he the like number one overall pick next season? I mean, I don't see why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so. I mean, again, it's going to depend on which coast he sort of ends up on, and what his competition is. Because if he gets mixed up with some Levi Kitchens and RJ Hampshires, there might be a little bit of a different conversation there. But I mean, he's definitely up there. He's going to be a really strong pick for outdoor season too, honestly, because he
Mm-hmm.
comes from the European MXGP circuit. He already had a really good outdoor season in the 250s last year. It should just be even stronger this year, especially if he's coming off a 250 Supercross championship. So yeah, Vial, a big player, has come up very recently. Um, Pierce Brown, who has been our consistent 250 guy, unfortunately tossed this one. Do you see his like wild crash? It looked like he was trying a Kevin Windham transfer.
Yeah, and like really, I mean, even his like last finish was 11th, but like that almost kind of makes sense with like where he's been finishing all year anyway. So like he's been ultra consistent even in the showdown. But yeah, I mean, finally the like crash bug came and bit him. But yeah, I mean, it like still he's like third in the like championship. I mean, things are like a lot closer now. I mean, Cody Shock is like right on his ass out of nowhere. But I mean, I think that like next race, Pierce Brown's gonna finish better than like Cody Shock, and I'd say Pierce has that like third place in the championship pretty much locked in.
Yeah. Yeah, the crash was weird. I mean, I think he just cross-roaded coming up the finish line jump, which is not something that you see very much. I almost wanted to see what the Spanish language broadcast would have been saying when he like went flying through the air, because they started doing this. I've seen it a few times where they've got these Spanish language broadcasters that they're trying to push, which is awesome. But they'll have them call like the beginning of the 250 LCQ. And this time, I don't know what he said. I don't speak Spanish, but it's almost sounded like when they went off the line, he did like the thing they always do in soccer, like the goal. I wanted to see I wanted to see what they did with Pierce Brown there too, but no, it's I like the Spanish language broadcast stuff. I don't understand what they're saying, and it's always funny when you hear the just totally dense Spanish words, and then all of a sudden Cody Shock, in just plain English being said. But anyways, okay, the one other person I wanted to bring up was actually Preston Boastplug. His best night in Supercross so far, ninth place in the main, finished fourth in his heat and like transferred straight through, which he's had some trouble and been in a lot of LCQs before. So good job, Preston Boastplug. My fiance actually met him at a yoga class in Murrieta, and I was talking to him a little bit, but very cool to see him in his rookie season make some progress because he's had a little bit of a tough one.
For sure. Yeah. It's like cool to see those guys, who like kind of make it through the LCQ or like maybe miss the main completely, actually, showing some light at the end of the tunnel and some progression. So yeah, I mean, like top 10, that is awesome for Preston. Super, super stoked to see that. Speaking of light at the end of the
Yeah,
tunnel though,
did I
what? Go ahead.
really quick? Did I tell you? So I mean, Deb came home from a yoga class one time, and she's like, "Hey, I like met this guy at a yoga class, and he like rides dirt bikes. He was like wearing a dirt bike shirt, and I was like, "Hey, my boyfriend is like looking for riding buddies. Do you want to go riding with him sometime?" He's like, "Oh yeah, sure, I could do that," and like connected us. And she showed me his Instagram, and it's like he was signed with KTM at that point. There's like a picture of him like shaking hands, like doing the deal with Roger DeCoster. And I was like, babe, I can't ride with this guy.
Could you
I'm
imagine
not
going to
keeping
a
up with
freaking
him.
Could you imagine going to like a motocross track with him, like going to freaking Glen Helen with him? Okay, freaking meet you at the end. You better wait for me at every single turn. Like freaking, he would destroy at like Glen Helen. It'd be gnarly.
I don't know. I could rip up pretty good for about 2 laps on the vet track at Lake Elsinore.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you'll keep right up with him.
Anyways, all right. Who else do you want to bring up?
So we need to do our podium locks of the week, Kelly. And my podium lock of the week, and it kind of goes back to there's a thing in sports and in racing, especially, where people that ride at their home track in their home city in front of the home fans, it it lights some fire under their ass that like they like didn't even know that they had. And like really on a little side note, I think that like that's what kind of separates the like all-time greats from the like middle of the road people is the like all-time greats like, Michael Jordan, Ricky Carmichael of like any sport is that they have that fire constantly burning to constantly be the best in every lap, regardless of who's behind them or like what race it is. They just give it everything they have. But the middle of the road people, when it's their home track, like Hammaker, like, all the time you like see it in like MotoGP, is like they're just home track. They go faster, go harder, and get crazy podiums and like crazy wins. With all that being said, not that my like podium lock is a like middle of the road guy, but it is his home race in Denver, and I'm doing Eli Tomac as a podium lock in front of the home crowd at elevation. He like trains for it. I think Eli's for sure going to get a podium. I would predict him probably third, but I wouldn't be like surprised if he got second or third coming up next week.
No, you're right. That's a good call. And I mean, to even add something a little bit more, scientific to that, he trains in Denver at that high elevation, and that actually gives him a lot of an advantage when they go and race there. So it's a good call. I mean, it's going to be a fight for him. I mean, obviously, I don't have any expectation of him being able to keep up with Jet if they're racing each other, and he's gonna still have a hard time battling with the likes of Sexton and Webb and possibly even Anderson, as we can see. But no, I like the pick for Denver.
I have one more question
Um,
about Tomac and like Webb and everything. When Tomac was like coming up on Webb and like thinking about passing him, it was like kind of at the like start of the main. The announcers were talking about team orders or saying, "Oh my gosh, does Tomac pass Webb if he has the chance?" Or like talking all about. Do you think that they talk about that pre-race or like that was in
Not a
Tomac's
chance.
head at all? I don't think so either. And like if
I
Tomac could have
yeah.
passed Webb, I think that he would have in a heartbeat. No like hard feelings, no love lost, but it's just, hey, we're in a race and I am going to go as fast as I can. And like sorry if you like lose the championship by like 1 point and it was my fault.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most you can say is that because they're teammates and Webb is the one who's closer to the championship battle, that he's going to give him a little bit more leeway and not be as aggressive and make a bullshit pass on him. But I mean, Tomac doesn't really do that kind of stuff anyways. But no, it was Webb passing Tomac, and I heard it was Carmichael or someone made the comment that uh, Tomac basically let him by. But I mean, Webb had the inside line on him, and Tomac kind of just didn't fight it.
Yeah.
Which he shouldn't have. Webb had the line. If he would have been fighting it, they probably would have gone down. And it wouldn't have helped him anyway. And honestly, he probably realized at that point, he's got the line on me. I can try and keep up with him and make a pass back, but that's all I can do. And he couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
But
So then who is your
okay,
podium
so
lock?
yeah, so we're going back to 250 West for next week. It's going to be very fascinating. Kitchen has been dominating that series until all the chaos happened at the showdown round, and I loved. Obviously, RJ Hampshire came out and won that race, and they played an interview with him where he was saying, "Look, he'd had some issues in his championship, and he basically said, I'm not going to worry in this race about where Levi Kitchen is or, what's happening behind me. I just need to win. That's all I need to do." And it worked out as good as you possibly could have hoped. Not only did he win, but a bunch of chaos made Kitchen finish way back and lose the championship lead. So RJ Hampshire is going into this next race with the championship lead and a huge amount of momentum after that last race. I like him to definitely be on the podium. Prediction second at this point. It's going to be interesting to see what happens between he and Kitchen. I don't know who's actually going to win that one. You know, Kitchen went down, but apparently is okay. Shouldn't be dealing with any lingering injuries. So definitely a possibility he still comes out and wins it. But RJ's got a nice little lead now, and I think those two are real strong top two contenders and have put a little bit of distance between themselves and Jordan Smith, who I think is the number 3.
I'm glad that you picked RJ because that was my like second podium lock that I was trying to like either pick Tomac or Hampshire. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the fact that in that interview he said, I like need a good start. I need to win, just super focused. And he accomplished both those things that he was trying to do. And now, I mean, next race, he's going to be thinking that same exact good start, good finish. And I don't think anyone can like stop him, especially if Kitchen isn't like 100%. I mean, I think RJ is like going to do some crazy shit and like for sure be on the podium.
Yeah. I mean, RJ is, I mean, again, this is what we expected this season to be. I mean, he was even more than, Anstie from the other coast. RJ was just second every single race last year behind Jet. And now Jet is gone. And we expected RJ to just be almost number one every single week. But he's taken some serious heat from the likes of Kitchen and Smith. Yeah, good momentum right now. He's had a few races that he just ran away with. He's got the opportunity now to close down the championship with 2 races to go. So that's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. So I'm excited. The next race is, Mile High up in Denver. And then weekend after that is the Salt Lake City East-West Showdown. Some of you might be coming right down to the wire on deciding your championship. If you don't have a little trophy next to your name on the standings page, you are still mathematically not guaranteed a championship position. So keep fighting.
Good luck, everyone. Hopefully you like win your matchup to clinch that championship spot. It's coming up. But good luck to everyone. And also happy birthday to my wife, Annie. It is her birthday today. We were celebrating all weekend. I kind of feel like shit today. Went a little hard last night. But it's always good to like let loose a little bit for good causes.
I sympathize with that. Happy birthday, Annie. All right. We'll see everybody later. Bye.